Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of September 13th. It's 6:30 p.m. or our regular time. We're a little slow behind tonight, waiting for a quorum. May I ask the clerk to call the roll?
Present tonight, Chairman Pigeon, Clerk Bailey, Pat Rumney, Joan Fox, and Jerry. I'll catch his last name next time.
He goes by name Jerry, too. Yeah. Thank you. We have any citizen participation this evening? There being none, we'll move along to the, we don't need the town administrator's report. I'm reading the wrong minutes. But we'll move on to our hearing, and as our first person, I'd like to call the, excuse me, citizen, oh my gosh, Sandy, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm the co-chair of CPC.
Yes, could CPC, please? Oh, why don't you sit next to Jamie?
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
We have several articles we've submitted for consideration at town meeting. One of them is to, you want me to go through them? I don't know if I got them in the sequence you have them.
No, but any sequence you want, you can take them if you like. The first one would be the unused funds.
Yeah, the slate roof for the town hall and the rubber roof on the top here have been completed. So we have been approved to return the unused funds. Mr. Menard said the project is completed, so we are returning the money to our general fund.
Goes back to your general fund.
Yes, it does, our undesignated account.
And the next one is your
50,
return unused funds from the
was it
project.
20,000 or 50? I forgot how much it was. Over 10 years ago, the town voted to give the Wareham Historic District Commission funds to expand the town historic districts. And they've done nothing with that project. They've not responded to emails regarding that project, and we're asking that the funds be returned to CPC. 9 years ago, they received a grant for surveying the existing 3 districts. The survey must be done before they can expand it, so once they complete the survey, they can come back to us for another grant for the expansion. But right now, the funds are going nowhere, and I'd like to see them returned.
Now, do you have any particular time frame that you give these people?
Normally
Any
3
grant
years,
funds? Normally 3?
yeah.
You're very generous.
At least, if you haven't done it in 3, give us a reason why you haven't done it in 3, and we'll continue to look at it. So we take a look at the old ones and say, okay, time's up.
Okay. And the next one you have is your bylaw clarification. You want to go from 9 to 7?
What happened was that you'll find that the number of members of CPC are recorded in 2 places in the town records, the bylaw and the charter. It got changed at last town meeting, but it wasn't updated in the other document, whichever one it is, I can't remember. We formally moved from 9 to 7 after last town meeting, just updates another document in town that still says 9. So it's just cleaning up some paperwork.
Okay, and your next one is the town hall auditorium roof.
Yes, they're asking for $120,000 to restore the rubber roof that's on top of the auditorium. We need a brand new roof on there, and that was the cost. Once we have the building secure and no longer leaking, then the town can work toward the restoration of the interior of the auditorium, but the roof must be done first.
Okay.
It's the Town Hall Historic.
Yes, the town hall historic, and this is definitely covered on the historic preservation guidelines for CPC, just like we did the roof for this building. Auditorium was built at the same time.
It's my recollection that the slate roof is completed, and the old roof was destroying this one as pieces of its slate would
Yes,
fall
I mean,
out.
we could not restore the rubber roof on the auditorium until we finished the slate roof restoration on the town hall, because you don't want those slates breaking away and falling down, and cutting the rubber roof we just installed, so that's why it's been so long, getting that done.
Okay, we have this, the roof, and you have the headquarters replacement housing, Article 26.
Yes, that's the Latham Center. They're looking to build a affordable housing unit down off of Great Neck Road and Cliffs Road, Cliffs Lane, whatever that is, to house 4 individuals with a specific medical condition as affordable housing. It will be subsidized housing.
I have a question. So, will these be Wareham residents, these, in these 4 units?
I don't think
or-
so. The disease is so unique.
Yeah.
It is not, this company now runs a home in Wareham already for people with this illness. And they do come from all over. It is a very unique problem, yeah.
Yeah, I read about this disease, and it's
It's in-
really.
Yep.
And it's a lifelong disease.
It is. It doesn't-
It starts at childhood and.
It goes on, yeah. They'll eat themselves to death if they're not carefully monitored, yes.
Did that Latham Center that's putting on, did they come to your committee to?
CPC,
Yeah.
yes, they did. And I have a very detailed proposal from them with a tremendous amount of supporting letters for the project, including a letter from the selectmen supporting the project.
Sounds reasonable. We have time to bring in the supporting stuff so you can describe it for town meeting.
Yes, you want, I can give you a copy now if you'd like.
There's no house there now?
No, it is empty land right now. This is complete, this is their project request from us.
501c3, so it wouldn't be taxable.
That is
but
correct.
There's nothing there now to tax
There's
except
nothing
the
there
vacant
now.
lot.
No, that is correct. They have a home further on the Cape, and it just doesn't suit their clients anymore, so they will be selling that home, I think it's in Brewster. And part of that revenue will be coming back to the building here in Wareham, and they're building a similar building in Sandwich. So the revenue from the profit from the sale of that house will be going toward offsetting the cost of those 2 projects in Sandwich and Wareham.
Now, this, excuse me, the sale of their previous property have anything controlling to do on the start of this property?
I don't know. I would say it's just part of their funding source.
And the last one we have is the dog park.
Yes. Yes, we're looking, they requested a $20,000 CPA grant, which represents 10% of the cost of the proposed $200,000. They're going for a Stanton, I can't remember the full name, a grant that is commonly given to dog parks type thing, so that they would be granting the majority of the cost. The 10% is just a, hey, Wareham is in the game. This shows our support. And we have a nonprofit DPAW that will be working with the town administrator for a memo of understanding. It would be their responsibility to maintain the dog park after it's completed. They'll be fundraising and maintaining the site.
And I think the organization that gives the grant has granted several others around the South Shore.
Yes, most certainly have. And we require a town official to be part of it, and Gary Buckminster has stepped up, and he is the town lead for the particular project. The natural resources, is that natural?
That's correct.
Natural resources will be the head of it. Mhm.
Where is it?
Falls right in line with your work.
Where is it? The property is town-owned. It's off of Maple Spring Road. If you come to Maple Springs and you want to take 25 north, it just a little further past, there's a left-hand turn, and you go up a hill, and there's a big dump site with TVs and mattresses and stuff like that. But on top of the little hill is where they're planning to put the dog park, just about an acre.
Okay.
Sandy, will the town of Wareham still own that land?
Oh, yes,
is there any kind of like liability once the dog park is on there? Say the Friends of Wareham Dog Park, I think is that organization that's gonna take the expenses over.
It's not quite that name, but it's something like it, yeah.
If they back out, I mean, say a
The
dog
liability
bites
still-
somebody and,
The liability is one of the biggest issues why we didn't have it on an earlier town, well, we went out to further study. And I believe that liability has been resolved, but to me, it's Mr. Sullivan who can address that, not me.
Of any of the CBC issues or articles, or any other questions? Oh, there be none, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Sandy.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm off to the other meeting. To talk about what's happening at Stonebridge, if anybody's seen it. Okey dokey, thank you.
Thank you. Next order, we'll have the school department. Michael has to leave for a meeting to tell them how to spend their money.
Yeah, we're still.
Article 31 and 32. 31 regards the establishment of a special education fund.
Okay, so if I just give you some background, so
Please.
as part of the development of the 2017-18 budget, we discussed with the town administrator establishing a special education stabilisation fund. So the purpose of such a fund would be to act as a reserve for unanticipated or unbudgeted costs of special education, either out of district tuition or transportation for special education students. And once established, this fund can only be accessed with a majority vote of the school committee and the selectmen.
How many, in the last 5 years, how many times has that impacted your budget?
So maybe if I can explain a little bit about how we budget for out of district tuition. So there's really two main sources of funds we have. We have our for out of district tuition, we have our annual appropriation within which we have budgeted, and we also receive funds from the state under a program called the circuit breaker reimbursement. So we receive funds each year from the state for a expenditure over a certain threshold on special education services within the district. So the way it works is, so for example, this year, as we're spending money, we'll report that to the state, and then next year they will give us the reimbursement for it. So then it gets paid over 4 payments throughout the year, one a quarter, and you find out. So actually, we just found out tonight actually what the circuit breaker for this reimbursement will be for this year. So because it's always delayed, what we've done in Wareham as much as possible is we've essentially banked the money we're receiving this year and spent last year's revenue. So because that means, because you already know what it was, because you've already received it, and you're not relying on it coming in, especially when you don't find out until October what it is. So, and it's essentially what that's meant is we've had a bit of a reserve there because we've had the money we're receiving in year, because actually what we budgeted is the money we received last year. So where if costs have gone up or have gone up due to, and primarily it's been transportation actually has been one of the biggest issues, then we've been able to, although you can't spend circuit breaker directly in transportation, we've been able to use that to pay for more tuition, and that offsets the cost of transportation from the general fund. So that's where our reserve really has been trying to protect the monies we received this year and using the monies from the previous year to pay for our district tuition. So in terms of what we've generally been, mostly because we've been slightly over budget a couple of times because of transportation primarily actually in the last few years, which has really increased a lot. And that's really about students going to a more varied number of institutions for their transport, so that you're sending one bus, taking one student to their location, and also students who need medical support on the bus. So we might have to pay for a nurse to be on the bus with the students in case they have any medical needs on the way to their placement. So that so those are the sorts of things that can come around. Now, just in terms of the students we are servicing here, so I checked before I came in, on average 30% of the students we are providing, this is over the last 5 years, 30% of the students we are providing services to this year had not received services out of district the previous year. And that's, so they might have been in district but not requiring to be out of, to being educated in district, and now their needs are such that they have to go to another place. Or they might have moved into the area and their needs need to be met somewhere else. But it just shows a sense of the churn, the number of students we have coming into the programme, and also on average about 20% of the students receiving out of district tuition in any one year do not receive out of district tuition the following year. So there's a lot of movement in this fund, which is why we've always been anxious to maintain some sort of reserve just in case needs fluctuate such and we have no way of meeting it. So this establishment of this bed stabilisation fund, one, it kind of formalises that reserve, so it's formally identified as a reserve for those purposes. And what it also meant is that we didn't have to maintain as much of a circuit breaker reserve, and so we were able to use that to pay for a greater proportion of our tuition this year, which was able to reduce our overall budget request in year for this year, and that's how this kind of helps. So it's actually, in the round, we actually aren't increasing the reserve, we're just moving how it's managed so that it's a bit clearer and there's a more formal structure around it, and it reduced our budget request to the town for this year. So does that help? I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but I kind of.
So, that tells us how it works in year one, how does it work in year two? We fund this out of the general fund, not out of the school budget,
Yes.
and you don't use it. Everything went swimmingly. Couldn't have gone better.
Yeah.
Is that another $10 in the general budget that you could put in for next year?
Yeah.
What happens to the money? It sits there.
Stays there. Yep.
Okay. Do we add to it in year two, or are we?
So
Do you feel like the
ideally, I would like to see it increase.
$200,000?
Yeah.
What would you like to get to?
Ideally, I would like it to be 400,000 eventually, but one step at a time. So I think it being there, and I think having 200,000 in it is a great resource.
Have you ever had a year that required 400,000 or even 200,000 extra?
We have had a year that's required 200, but never 400. But we've always aimed to keep about 400,000 in reserve from the money that we are spending. Just
When
because
you receive the money from the state, where is it deposited? In the accounts, your
We
accounts or
have
the general fund?
So the money we receive from the state goes into a revolving account called circuit breaker, and actually there is a requirement you have to spend the money you receive within a year of receiving it, which is why we're always, so there's kind of a cycle going on where we are receiving the money and then within a year spending it, and then so on.
So the reimbursement for these extraordinary expenses
Yeah,
fall into your account,
yes,
but you're gonna maintain the stabilization fund out of the general fund.
yes, but the money we receive back from reimbursement is paying for tuition. So that is to offset the money we've spent. So we spent money last year and we're being reimbursed for that, and we'll use it this year to pay for more of district tuition. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sounds like extra.
Kinda,
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
kinda confusing.
Yeah,
No, I
there's a
don't think
lot
it's
going on,
confusing.
yeah.
Yeah, but it does sound like we're adding more to the budget, but I'm
Well,
not saying that's a bad idea.
yeah,
It sounds
so-
reasonable.
Essentially, yeah, so it's not adding more to the budget. The problem was that when we first came with the money we needed to fund the services we have to provide this year, the town wasn't able to meet that budget request. So they said, can you spend more of the money, the reserve, essentially what we're doing is we're spending more of the reserve, and the town is helping by providing some of that reserve to offset that expenditure.
Now, these circuit breaker
Yeah.
funds that you say go into a revolving fund, if they're in arrears of the excess that you had to spend from the previous fiscal year, then wouldn't it be appropriate they go into the revolving fund that you're trying to create, because they're reimbursing you for extra costs that you had to pay the previous year?
Yeah, sorry, so those funds, so you're suggesting those funds would go into the stabilisation fund? Legally, I believe they have to go into the circuit breaker fund, so we could then take a vote to put more money into that. But the problem is, and what I would hope we could bear in mind is that this is one side of the coin. The other side was our general budget negotiation and discussion with the town, where if we hadn't had the stabilization reserve, we wouldn't have been able to reduce our budget requests, and it would have been.
Well, if we have this reserve, that means you won't have to ask for so much next year.
Well, oh yeah,
You can
absolutely.
reduce your overall budget by the
Well,
same.
we always do reduce it by as much as we possibly can, and we will continue to do so.
Any further questions regarding this issue? No? Then the next one, Michael, is the Ventura Fund, or not the
McKinney
Ventura?
Bento. So
Yes.
the state, this is also similar to circuit breaker, although much lower amounts. The state reimburses us for transportation of homeless students under a federal McKinney Bento Homeless Assistance Act. And it's a fairly low percentage. I think it might be around 30%. I need to check. So this year we're receiving around $28,000 for transportation of homeless students the previous year, and this article allows that money to go into this transportation revolving account in order to pay for homeless transportation this year.
I think this is housekeeping. This comes
Yeah,
up every
this comes up every
Mm.
year. Yep.
Any questions? No, there being none, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
The next one I think is real clear cut. There's only one for the harbor. Jamie is here to represent. And can we do that, Jamie? Article 18.
You need the handouts, or are you all set?
Oh, we need the hand, always like handouts. Harbor Services Permit Receipts Reserved for Appropriations. Yes, Jamie?
So we're looking to move the sum, transfer a sum of $68,870 from Harbor Service Permits Receipts Reserved for Appropriation account to be transferred to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvements account, or take any other action relative thereto. I'll just go through the brief explanation of what we're looking for, different monies, and I guess we can follow up with some questions, if that's all right.
Yes.
So our first one is the repair, maintenance to markers, moorings, docks, piers. This is pretty much housekeeping. We put in for this every year at this time of year, right around the same number. It's just maintenance. Like it says right here depicted, we have 125 nav aids, which consist of red and green nav aids for Coast Guard. Consists of slow no wakes and stuff, and these deteriorate over time. And a lot of our markers at this point have become almost ghosts. You can't read them and stuff like that. So it's the time of year where we need to change them out and get them prepped for spring. And the same with docks and piers. We have Tempest Knob Dock, we have a number of different piers that we maintain, stuff like that, and they take a beating over the summer, whether it's boats running into them and whatnot. So storms like this one, I mean, Onset Pier right now is taking a good hit. So all that needs to get fixed. So moving on, we have department equipment, maintenance and repairs, and safety equipment. This is to replenish our stock of life jackets, first aid equipment, bags, any type of lighting features, safety, Coast Guard required, whether it's flares that are outdated, essential stuff that we need on our boats and in our trucks. The next one we have is our pump out boat replacement. This is a 25% required match. We were awarded the CVA grant. It's the Clean Vessel Act grant. And what this does is we provide a facility for the boaters, local boaters in the harbor, and anybody transient to our harbors to pump out their vessel of waste, basically. Not only that, they let us utilize this boat as another patrol boat as well too, so it's a multi-purpose for us. And
So this is bilges and sands?
What's that?
Bilges and sand tanks?
It's primarily sanitation, but we can utilize it the way that the pump is set up to pump out vessels and have it just go overboard. So if a vessel sinking, like for example, on the 4th of July, we had a vessel sinking in the harbor during the fireworks. We were able to pull up one of our boats to it, tie on and pump that boat out and save that boat from going down. So it has a number of different, multiple uses.
And the old one's no longer serviceable, or?
The old one that Gary has depicted here that we're gonna be replacing, it's been here for quite some time. It's got a lot of stress cracking going on. A lot of the flotation inside of it is starting to fall down and deteriorate from the salt. And not only that, the boat spent some time out of the water this summer because it was locked up into a safe mode. So it was overheating for quite some time. And we just feel like we're at the point where we can't justify putting money into an older boat like this. And where we were awarded this grant this year, it feels like it's the time to move on from it.
So it has hull damage and engine problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's outlived its expectancy for us. Moving on to the vehicle purchase and lease payment. First year lease purchase payment of 2 equipped 4x4 vehicles. These vehicles were replaced in 1998 half-ton 4x4 pickup and a 2002 half-ton 4x4 pickup as well. These vehicles have high mileage, significant safety and mechanical issues, rot, rust, and quite a deterioration. I did take some pictures just so you could see in a little, I'll just hand it all. So these are the vehicles that we are hoping to replace. As you can see, the 98 model right here, it's a Marine Unit 5.3. It's had, just in the last 6 months, it's had extensive work into it. It's only spent about half its time on the road that it should have been this summer, which we rely on this vehicle actually quite a bit when we expand our department in the summertime. We've replaced some brake lines. Most of them have rotted out. The power steering, the windshield wiper, we have failure constantly with. The steering wheel it's one of the rubber steering wheels, it's exposed metal, and the cost of actually replacing the entire wheel probably outcosts the entire truck. Because it has the safety features within it. And just showing its age, normal wear and tear, oil transmission leaks, etc. And the doors and hinges are actually falling off the vehicle. So this one has been a good truck for us, but I think it's time for it to go. And secondly, the 2002 Chevy, this has the higher of the miles, has a number of safety issues as well. This is its second go around with the rot and rust on it. We were able to cut it out years ago and replace it, but now the rest of the truck, frame, undercarriage, everything else is caught up to the body. And we're kind of seeing that all over the truck between rotted brake lines, overheating, rusted and rotted frame. The interior is showing its age as well. And like I said, the engine's starting to have a little bit of a knock too, so I mean, the next step would be to replace the engine, and like I said, the cost doesn't outweigh the measure here.
So what is it you're buying?
So we are looking at I believe it's 2 half-ton pickup trucks. I don't have the exact numbers for you on that. That would be something that Gary would have. But they are looking at a lease for the first year, and the lease would be $22,140 for both vehicles.
Each?
I believe that's for both vehicles.
It's 11,000.
Because it's a lease
Yeah.
payment.
Three-year lease.
I'm not sure on the lease year, I'm sorry. I would imagine it would be a 3-year lease, that would make sense.
Generally, he's been doing financing leases for 3 years.
Yeah, yes.
So I guess he knows what he wants. These will pull all the boats you need pulled, and
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
they're 2-wheel drive, they'll get up and down the ramps, or
They're they'll be 4-wheel drive, they'll be able to get up and down ramps, they'll be able to go into the woods, they'll be able to do everything that we need to see fit.
leather seats.
I don't know about that one. I might like that, but
Lighting transfer, or just party lighting? Pullman cabs for one of them? You know, if you didn't park it so close to the salt water, it wouldn't rot like that.
they usually stay up at our shop. I wanted to make it nice picturesque for you. Yeah, get a little beach scenery in there.
1998.
Yeah, they
It's
got
just
some
broken
age
in.
on it.
1998, I don't think so.
The new car smells go on, I guess.
Yeah.
It was a good truck though. I love driving that truck. It was nice. Moving on, we have the vehicle lease payment. This is the third payment of a 1-ton 4x4 pickup truck that we have. The fund is being requested to allow timely payment of this vehicle. The lease payment was originally requested at Springtown meeting and did not allow for adequate time process for the payment. The town of Wareham did not incur any additional costs or penalties. So this is more of a housekeeping for one of the lease vehicles that we have right now. Moving on, our mooring management software. The payment for a year, it's basically our yearly contract for our web-based mooring system. This mooring system allows us to be on the boats, be in our trucks, to be able to access it, opposed to the old system that we had, where we couldn't do that. And the last part is housekeeping, which is our printing, mailing of harbor service permits, stationery, and office supplies.
How much was the license for the mooring software?
5,000.
I remember when I first bought it, he came before the committee, spoke very highly of it, and was really, cost productive.
Honestly, it really has, because we're able to be out on the water and we know who we're dealing with because we don't have access to a lot of the police department's tools. So to be able to look up, because it has a number of different advantages, it gives us the ability to look up registrations right there on the spot. So it's just like a cop looking up a plate number and knowing who he's dealing with, we're looking up a boat and knowing who we're dealing with as well. So it's a safety feature as well.
The printing, mailing, and supplies, isn't that expense included in your operational expenses at the annual budget town meeting that we have?
That, I do not have the answer for you, to be honest with you. I can ask and find out for you.
If you would, please.
Do you have a breakdown of these others that you can just give me so I can put it in the explanation?
A breakdown of,
What's going to maintenance, piers, life jackets, or is it?
I don't have an itemized breakdown for you of what it is, it's just,
This is this handout that you, did you get one? Yeah, you have one right here.
Awesome, thank you.
I have a question on
It's
the,
upside down,
on
it
the
could be-
vehicles. Are they leased, for a 3-year lease, and then at the end of the 3rd year, you purchase them like for $1, or how does?
that's
Yeah,
exactly right.
They're financing leases.
Yeah.
Yep, they're fine.
And are these worth anything now?
The trucks,
What do you do with them?
I would imagine that they would, the town administrator they would have to go to like an auction or something like that, similar to what maintenance did a couple of years ago when they auctioned off a bunch of equipment, they would have to go to a town auction.
We use it for driver's ed.
Derek has gone to leasing almost everything we have
Yeah.
in the vehicles now for, definite cost, there's no more, it's less overall, yeah. Any other questions? Are we asked to know? Okay, good. Thank you, Jamie.
Not a problem, thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. Which articles are you here to address?
The cemetery commissioners,
Oh, very good.
transfer and rules and regulations.
Please, and
Okay,
control.
sir.
Which articles are that?
They are 28 and 29.
I'm a little behind.
Was it not, I believe it's 28 and 29?
Yes.
28 and 29.
Revocation and adoption of the Wareham Cemetery rules.
Well, first of all, my name is Kathy Bird, and I happen to be one of the cemetery commissioners. I
Welcome,
also
Kathy.
happen to be a chair. And we have submitted 2 articles, and we are seeking your approval. One of the articles is transfers of monies, and that comes from the balances of 2 accounts and putting them into a new account. And this is in conjunction with the Director of Municipal Maintenance and the Town Administrator or their designees. And what we're trying to do is create a long-term plan for our 3 cemeteries.
Do you have an idea of the amount that's going to transfer?
One of the articles has a $15,000 balance, and the other article would have $11,161.37.
Okay, that would be the cemetery funds into another account.
Yes,
This is just cleaning things up, a lot of housekeeping here that we do.
correct.
Yeah.
And
Anything
so-
on, go ahead.
Sorry, no, and it would enable us to utilize the money because we bought additional land at Agawam and for expansion and also for cemetery as well.
Any anything of note in the adoption of the cemetery rules and regs? Anything significant in your changes?
Well, what we did, because the cemetery rules and regulations haven't been updated since 1982. And it was time that we took care of this. And we did hire a consultant who has been guiding us through these rules and regulations. And we are now probably within compliance of Massachusetts general laws, and we've cleaned up a lot of the language. We've made it very easy, we've defined terms. We worked very, very hard on this, and I think I sent you a copy,
Yes.
email, and I didn't realize that you all had copies, but I should have brought them. We are having a hearing Monday in the auditorium, the 25th at 6 o'clock. And we hope we see somebody there.
Are there any other questions?
Have you increased the price of a lot? They always seemed low at, what was it, $300 or something?
That's, we've got, this was the important thing, the rules and regulations.
Sure.
Next is going to be policies and procedures. And then we will be discussing, the consultant is doing a cost analysis. And we will be determining which direction we're gonna go.
It has to fund maintenance for kind of ever, right?
I'm sorry?
When you buy a lot, you have to fund the maintenance.
Yes, but it's
In
$200
In perpetuity.
for life.
Yeah, that's we've heard that before, and it didn't seem.
Doesn't allow for
Is that the
inflation.
one, is that what I said to you down and dirty, remember?
Were there any controversial changes in the cemetery rules, or is there?
No, it's just well-defined, it goes along with Massachusetts general laws.
What was out of compliance with Mass General Law?
Some of the verbiage that was in our old regulations, the term license, the term deed, and these are now well-defined.
Clarify if you want a room with a view, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Just as an aside while you're here, do you, when you do cleanup of the grounds and like, I know you have all hands on deck, Mother's Day, things of that nature, you need extra hands. Friend of mine is a parole officer, and up at the courts, they're looking for someone or something when the judge says you have 10 hours of community service. You might contact him and they'd be, instead of extra hands, these people aren't in county lockup or anything like that, so they have their own car and all that stuff.
Yes, I think we had that discussion over the phone, and I related that information to Mr. Menard, the director of Mr.
Excellent,
Menard.
excellent. Good. Anything else?
Any help would be helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, why don't we do Ken?
Good evening.
How are you this evening?
Oh,
Oh, careful now.
new glasses.
Oh, I was gonna say it was wine with dinner, but that's okay. That sounds more innocent.
Maybe I'll have it afterwards.
Okay, we have 12, 14, and 15. Ken.
And 12 is the expedited permitting, chapter 43D of the state law. We have Serped, the regional planning agency, assisting us in that article. What it does is it sets us on a program for making more efficient permitting process for the selected sites. The sites that have been selected are the Patterson's Brook Industrial Park, the last parcel at the end of the Industrial Park Road, the Tremont Nail Factory, and 200 Rosebrook Place, the 80 Makepeace parcel, in between the medical office and the assisted living facility. But I'm hoping that we can learn from this ideas that we can take to permitting across the board throughout the town as we learn how to be efficient in permitting for those parcels.
How is it, the expedited, process expedited? What is the difference between this and the regular process?
Well, what we do is we have a point of contact. That's the single point of contact for the towns, for somebody coming in for a permitting. And all the permits are laid out in terms of process and steps. So it's essentially a permit guide. And there's a requirement that we meet a 6-month time period for completely doing all permitting.
Does it apply to both commercial and residential?
It could.
If I wanted
It
my-
all depends on what's being proposed on the parcels.
If I wanted my project on there, could I just come to you and say, hey, can I have this? Or what's the standard for getting on the list?
Standard for getting on the list is to sign up, to have an agreement that the owner will participate in the process.
For this particular article, you only has 3 specific locations.
That's
You
correct.
want this to apply to, right? Correct.
That's correct.
I think the builder withdrew the Patterson property, did he not?
They had a proposal. They were before the planning board. They withdrew because the natural heritage endangered species maps changed and reduced the amount of area affected around their property.
Yeah,
So they can be more efficient in the use of their property now, which I think
they
is a
have more
benefit.
acreage to build on?
Yes.
Some of the moths moved out.
I have to talk to that spotted turtle and move up, you know.
It got ran over on Toby Road.
So this applies to 3, but you're saying that anyone else could get into it if they had an appropriate project,
An appropriate parcel of land, yeah.
parcel project.
As determined by the planning board?
As determined by the planning board.
Just so I understand, can you give me some examples of the type of permits you're talking about that would be expedited?
Special permits, site plan review, conservation commission, historic district, historic commission. There's a long list
Yeah, okay.
of potential permits that you have to go through.
So I'm sorry to be slow, but there's 3 listed, but
But you'd like to have more.
well, no, I'm wondering why it isn't more general, or is this just a test drive and then we'll have to bring it back next time if other people want on it?
Yeah, we can come back in springtime meeting and add additional parcels. One of the benefits for doing this, and I'm hoping that when we tried advertising and calling around, asking for people who wanted to sign up, had difficulty in finding a lot of people interested. But one of the things that happens when you get on the list is you're marketed by the state as well too, on the state web list.
Right. But I guess the question is, do we have to go to town meeting every time to get someone on the list? So I come to you with my parcel of land and my project, you say, okay, well, we'll vote on this in the next town meeting, and then you're on the list.
Here's what I'm hoping, is that we get a process that's gonna be fast and efficient for permitting.
Yeah, sounds great.
And then we're gonna just run it across the board.
So so you wanna test drive this and then apply it to someone who wants to build a house or even rebuild a house?
Yeah, and I think what we'll have is, at the minimum, we'll have a permit guide and more coordination between departments and on the permitting
I'm
process.
just being too impatient, is what you're saying.
Yes, I think so.
So supposedly if this goes well, you would essentially delete the language that outlines those 3 specific parcels and make it in general language in our bylaw.
Well, I leave those 3 specific parcels in because they get the benefit of the state marketing as well. But we can add in additional parcels in so that they also get that state benefit.
Okay, I guess the question is, do we have to go to town meeting to add those parcels in?
Yes, as far as I know, we'd have to go to town meeting.
Could we make it more general so that you could approve the new parcels going in and get the state funding, advertising, whatever?
That'd be cool.
That's what I'm saying.
Or the
Right,
planning
yeah.
board instead of waiting every 6 months.
Yeah, get the planning board to vote on it and
Right.
place it, say, in the process.
So I guess
So I'll do some research on that and
it
see
might
what
be
we
too
do.
late to change this now, but, I mean, it sounds like a great idea that cutting red tape, moving good projects along quickly, reducing the permitting costs for because time is money and lawyers cost a lot of dough. So this all sounds terrific.
And, you know, I want to point out, one of the things we want on the other side is good land use regulations, so it's clear, you know, master plan, get that done
Yeah.
this year and get it laid out so that people understand what we want to see, and then we can be more efficient about getting it in place.
Sure. Yeah, we don't want crummy projects, but,
Right.
all right.
We could have put Bay Point in there instead of 3 years, only take 3 months. Any other questions? on that issue? There being none, okay, we'll move on to your amending the zoning bylaws, Article 14, regarding the solar energy generation facility,
Yeah, and since that,
Toby Road.
since that's not in the warrant, that I publish now,
I've
got a
never,
handout.
I've never seen a place cleaned out so quickly, and they're already putting stanchions in there to hold the panels.
They knew people wouldn't like it, so they're doing it as fast as they can.
No one knew, or I didn't.
It seemed like a lot of people didn't
Well,
know.
they apparently met all the requirements of the existing laws that we have on the books.
It's
So they
zoned
didn't have to
industrial.
go any, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're a public utility, and public utilities are allowed to create something within the industrial zone as of right, which means they don't have to go through the standard permitting process.
And I was surprised they owned all that land, because they were using it as a staging area initially for their,
They actually don't own that land, they're leasing it.
oh, they're leasing it, 99-year lease?
I don't know how many years it is, but they're leasing the land.
Okay. To Article 14.
So Article 14 is the solar energy bylaw. So solar energy collection systems, according to state law, must be allowed. And it states that no zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health, safety, or welfare. However, even though the state law says that you can't prohibit, we don't have any local regulations in place. So this comes in to take that role of defining what the use table should list for solar energy facilities. The process and the criteria and the standards, and then the definitions of what the regulated solar energy facilities are.
So they would be setbacks, buffer zones, fencing, et cetera, et cetera?
Correct. And one of the problems we've had is that there hasn't been sufficient buffer in at least one of the projects between the residential development and the solar field. So we want to make sure that we get a better buffer in between the, so we don't impact the quality of life or the property values.
Yeah, 'cause I think irrespective of where it's located, the most obvious one we'll have of all the fields we have is the one on Toby Road, is it not? I'm not familiar with the others.
Yeah, I know, and we have 8 of them in town, and you don't really know where they are for the most part, except for those people that live right next to ones that have the visibility to in their rear yard.
8 of them, wow, I didn't realize they had 8.
Yeah, we put up several of them,
Well, you've got 2 of them.
probably 3 or 4.
So what we're trying to do is get the regulations so we don't have any problems, but allow the solar fields to be used and developed as appropriate way.
Yeah, indeed, because government works in defining a way that you don't do something like this until someone complains and you realize you don't have any control over it. And so now we have 8 already. And I'm sure there are gonna be more. Eversource is certainly interested in putting on more. Because they're gonna work for their regulations reduction now.
Yeah, the regulations are complex, the solar energy credits are substantial still, so it makes sense for people to develop these facilities.
Indeed.
And as you know, in the warrant, there's also the pilot program for obtaining
Yes, changing the check through level, yes.
taxes on these facilities.
Yeah, Derek talked to us about it last week.
Right.
Any other questions?
Could you explain that to us? Do you know how that works?
Well,
Pilot programs?
The pilot is payment in lieu of taxes.
Yeah.
And what it is setting up an agreement with the property owner.
So there's no personal property tax on it if it goes to your specific building, but if it goes to the grid, there is?
I'm not sure of the details on that.
Okay. I'll figure it out.
And if I recall, it's basically, we tax the land, but they have equipment there. that,
Right, and most of them just feed the grid, so it seems like we'd be entitled to personal property tax anyway. They would have a heavy depreciation schedule, so it would only last so long.
Yeah,
I'm wondering what's in it for them.
the power company?
Yeah.
or for us, is to get,
I pay
finally
a lot today,
get some
but
more
then,
money.
then it goes down quickly because of the depreciation schedule.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Okay, on that issue, any other questions? No? Okay, the next one, the amend the town zoning bylaws, which I look at, it's a lot of period, commas, spelling, and tense and all that stuff.
Yeah, what happens is the zoning bylaws have accumulated errors and inconsistencies over the years as there've been quite a few changes that have happened. So, and what problem is, a lot of it makes it confusing when you go back through when you see the tables incorrectly structured and spelling errors that
Well,
might
you
be.
you get a good attorney and he can parse the words very well.
Yeah, so we're trying to make sure that it's clear what the intent of the bylaw is and not to make substantive changes, but just to make the corrections and to reorganize. We're also renumbering the bylaw to make it consistent across there because the numbering system varies throughout the bylaws.
As I've looked through this, essentially, all that is being changed is, as we and I both described, just some notes, words, periods, et cetera, to clarify, but nothing to change the overall intent of the bylaw itself.
Right, not even really in the smallest way. You know, what we found actually in some cases was that some of the changes that had been previously approved by town meeting hadn't been corrected or changed within the official zoning bylaw. So we had an official zoning bylaw that didn't conform to what town meeting had voted. So we're making those changes as well in this version.
That always helps. Any questions regarding this issue? Are you laughing about?
I'm laughing. Because
So this
it's
is-
amazing how he's picked up on some of that.
Yeah,
Well, spell check does not do well in chapter and verse of legalese.
Yes.
so we'll just call this a housekeeping.
Yes,
calling it technical amendments and,
yeah. Housekeeping, period, no semicolon.
I just wonder what town meeting will do with all of these.
well, you know, it's gonna make it remain confusing if they don't vote these changes in there. So-
I understand what you're saying.
And I know, and it was a recommendation of town council that we list all these out to make it specific as to what was actually occurring.
And I agree. I agree.
Yeah, but if we had to,
When they start looking at it,
if we have to go through amendments on town meeting floor, it's gonna be
Now,
problematic.
since this is ours, well, I'll charge you with responsibility of editing their edits.
Yeah, make sure they get everything.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concern regarding this issue?
By the way, both the solar bylaw and these technical amendments were reviewed by the zoning study committee that was created in last year. And they blessed them.
Is there anything left out of the zoning bylaw for solar that you thought should be in there, or it's in there that you might think is a little too much, or?
Well, one of the things we have to be careful with is what gets regulated by special permit and what gets reviewed by site plan review. Because we can join the Green Communities program if we draft this bylaw correctly and get ourselves some significant grant money over the coming years.
Grant money to do?
To do energy improvements, like new windows, new HVAC systems in our buildings.
And I think it indirectly would affect the interest rate we're charged if we have to, borrow money to do a green project.
Yes, there are a number of benefits to come from being a green community. Some good financial benefits to come as a result.
Every little 0.5% counts.
Oh, yeah.
Is there downside to becoming a green community?
The only issue that we have to address that has stalled it previously was the building code. what's called the stretch code. And the concern was, is the stretch code going too far ahead of the building code? But now as the building code has advanced and changed over the years, the stretch code is almost falling behind. And it's gonna match up very, very quickly. So that if we adopt a local stretch code, it'll be very much like following the state building code anyway. You know, purchasing the EVs, the electric vehicles out here, or getting the lease on those ones, was one of the criteria that meets the green community. So we're already somewhat on the way to getting the designation as a green community, meeting the 5 criteria for that purpose. So this bylaw, if we draft it well, is gonna get us on the track to.
How many of those cars do we have to buy? Is that it? That's just the 4 or whatever?
Well, there are 3
police
now.
officers driving them?
Yeah, eventually the idea is that replacement vehicles should be electric or supported.
Yeah, he's got one station open. Told me you should get a credit card and charge.
Who has that?
We have it down here.
Then we have 3 cars and 4 stations.
Oh, but you'd have to stay here to charge it.
No, you have some plug it in, but well, I assume you have a vending device that you could put your credit card in and then plug your car in, but I don't know how long it takes to charge them.
Well, you know, I got a call about Tesla putting in a charging station over at Wareham Crossing.
Like one of those supercharger things they
Tesla?
call them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they have a fast charge system.
yeah.
Volkswagen is coming out with their own mitigation program because of the emissions problem they had with setting up electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging stations. And so they're going to be, just as the technology is improving elsewhere, it's going to be faster charging that's going to come along with these new systems.
I would say venture some company's gonna go into it specifically to build and service charging stations, where you can put your credit card in to recharge your car when you're off shopping, when you're in the movies, or something of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
Assuming the connections are all universal.
Yeah, there's an Israeli system where they actually change the batteries. So it's a little bit faster. You just switch the battery packs out.
Yeah, it's been around well, the idea's been around for a while. I didn't know if they
Yeah.
actually implemented it.
Yeah, they have in Israel.
Anything else?
So we can talk about more about alternative energy
Thank you, Pam.
technology.
Pretty soon you'll have no gas tank or steering wheel.
You see, thank you very much for your patience.
Okay,
Now, you've been before us once already,
I have.
and would you like to add anything to it, or you want to?
Well, all I was
Perhaps
gonna
Jerry has
say
some
is,
questions.
well, you were there for the petition, for the article that's been withdrawn. Or you didn't get the article that's been withdrawn?
No.
That's not why I'm here? Oh, there was an article submitted to the selectmen to get the position of director on the budget at this town meeting,
Yes,
but it was withdrawn,
Article 34.
Article 34.
Oh, I was not aware of it.
Right, so that article, I believe it was withdrawn. Well, that was my understanding, it was gonna be withdrawn.
as well.
Yes, because there were a number of people who don't want it withdrawn. And in fact, there were a number of people who gathered hundreds of signatures to support this petition. Alan Slavin came to our Council on Aging meeting and he kind of gave reasons why this is not the time to put this on, and I agree that it should go on the Springtown meeting. So that's why I was in support of withdrawing it, so I believe it's been withdrawn. I don't think I can be the person to withdraw it, because I didn't put the petition in, correct?
Who, the first person or the first signature on the petition automatically becomes the petitioner,
Okay,
the first signer.
and I believe Cat Jones was the first signer.
That's whose
Right.
name is on there.
Right. And it was, again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but it was my understanding that it was going to be withdrawn. Because this, we'd rather, and to make it clear that, as I said, they had hundreds of signatures on a petition to support this. And there are a number of people, the seniors do want to see Council on Aging Director, but we felt that the spring was the better time. Work with you guys now to get it on the budget. If we don't get it on the budget, then we'll bring in hundreds of seniors to support it at Springtown meeting, but right now, we don't want to stir up controversy and do this right now, but we want to make people aware that there is a need for a Council on Aging Director.
Yeah, and that's a very good way to do it.
Right.
You create awareness.
Exactly, exactly. We're not going away, and people aren't going away, but I certainly understand that I don't believe this is the time to do it. We should do it for the Springtown meeting and work with you and the selectmen and find the way to finance it and get it on the budget to vote in the spring. But again, like I said, I can't withdraw it, but it was my understanding it was going to be, maybe it'll be withdrawn on the floor of town meeting.
At this point, yes, because the warrant's
Yes,
closed.
yeah.
So
Yes,
I think it
yes,
has
and I
to
think
be done
that's
on the
how
floor.
it'll work, right, right. So that's all I'm here for.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time this
Okay,
evening.
well, thank you for supporting us, and you'll see me again and again.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Now, that leaves us with just voting for the articles. Why don't we go down one at a time, and I'll ask somebody to make a motion, and we'll have a vote. And if there's any comments or questions one wants to make, by all means. Yes. Yep, that would be our sheet, so to speak.
Okay,
It's two-sided.
yes, I know. I was just on the other side.
I was trying to
Did
put
you
my
think I
notes
forgot?
together. Well, no, I was trying to put my notes together before coming here, and I, you don't know how long I looked for the second page. Must be something to do with our secretary or something, I don't know. Okay, Article 1, which is the budget transfers, yet I don't believe we have any that were identified. And it's a housekeeping issue for the most part. And under the circumstances, thinking how to phrase our motion, that since there are no requests, should we say we just took, take no action? So I'll entertain a motion to take no action. Because as I said, there are no transfers being requested.
Motion to take no action at this time.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This is one where we may take action just before town meeting, though.
TNA, take no action. Article 2, which to approve and fund the FY18 capital plan. Again, nothing has been requested. I think Derek spoke of something, but nothing has come before us. It's too late now.
I mean, then we'll have requests and they'll tell us what they are just before town meeting. Once free cash is settled. Isn't that how it works?
That's
Or is
an
that the
issue
other one?
we can resolve. Because if the committee wants to say, we will not address anything the night before, night of town meeting, unless it's an emergency.
No, we can, we always have, but
We always have, and I would suggest that we
it's never gotten
perhaps
into the book,
we
obviously.
entertain the idea, I don't say take action, that after this is over, we notify them that it's inappropriate for us to be entertaining changes to articles or requests for monies the night of or the night before town meeting. I mean, we haven't had an opportunity or wouldn't have an opportunity to discuss it, other than then or talk to anybody. But it's an issue, we'll keep it in mind. Okay, Article 2, approve and fund the FY18 capital plan. I'll entertain a motion to take no action.
Second.
First. Motion, thank you. Motion is made and seconded to take no action. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Article 3 is transfer from free cash. Now, those are numbers that he will be giving us, I think it's October 19th. They actually certify free cash. So I think he knows what the number is now anyway. I have an issue here, and it's the fund, the Special Education Stabilization Fund. It will require that they take the motion creating the fund before we consider this one. So assuming Claire will do that, why don't we just move forward, knowing that the special ed is 200K they're gonna be requesting. And the rest is a variable not to exceed the amount of free cash.
The OPEB, or
Fund the stable and the OPEB. Motion to approve, I entertain a motion to approve transfer of free cash.
should we have solid numbers, or do we have,
We're gonna have to wait, the only number we have is the request from the school committee.
Derek asked for 100 to 150 for the stabilization fund. What he didn't give us an OPEB number.
No,
Do we need
Doesn't
it?
this fall under the same category the other two do?
no, because this one is actually gonna have numbers.
Okay.
He didn't give them to us last week. Gabby, pardon?
All right, well, maybe we should put it off, to see if we can get numbers before printing.
Okay, well, because I'd like to have another meeting before we do send it off to the printer. Okay, we'll postpone that one. Next one is Article 4, the budget adjustment. This one
And that
was,
with 34?
pardon?
Does that have something to do with 34?
Yes, it did, and that was the original purpose of that
Right.
particular one. Although it's written very generally, it was to give him the opportunity or the ability to transfer within accounts, because the town administrator is limited to transferring monies within a budget for operational or salary. But he can't transfer it to another department or to another fund, unlike with the school committee or school department. So how would the committee choose to do? Take no action?
But I think we should take action, yes or no.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're here for. I'd like to hear a little more about it. It sounds very broad, and I thought it was put into,
Well, irrespective of whether or not the Article 34 is passed, if we pass this, he has the opportunity to do it anyway. We are giving him the authority.
right,
Since we're not granting the authority for any specific purpose.
but it isn't for this specific purpose, it's very broad, it's for any
Indeed.
purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if that'll kind of bring up bad habits down the road, where everyone comes to this meeting and demands money, and he has to short someone to. And when we
Yes.
set our priorities in the Springtown meeting, we
Indeed.
set our budget, and unless it's an emergency, I don't know why our priorities necessarily change every 6 months.
I would agree with you. I do agree with you.
So-
And I don't think it's necessary at this time, whether it be based on conversation for Article 34 or just based in general, the conversation we just had.
Mhm.
It is giving him broad powers. I do not,
He's not gonna be the last town administrator, so
Yeah.
whether you trust him personally or not is irrelevant.
I would ask for a positive motion, but you vote in the negative.
For the positive motion, you vote, or for the,
You vote against it.
you
Vote
vote
nay.
against it?
Yes, yes.
At this point, I'd either wanna hear more, a good reason to approve it, or I would just vote no personally, but,
So what is your
That's
preference?
me.
You want to
Everyone
postpone it
else.
until,
I'd like to postpone it because it's a little confusing. I thought this had to, with the budget to approve 34, and if 34 is being withdrawn, Is it,
Right.
and then it's not only the council on aging, it's the library, it's other
It's
departments,
everything.
and yeah,
Right. The
so,
library could come in and
Right.
say, we want more
I mean, I
cash
thought
during
that
this
the
town
budget was
meeting.
fixed. When-
It is.
and-
This would unfix it.
Unfix it, so
Mhm.
do we wanna unfix it?
Yeah.
I-
The, when Derek put this in, it's language that is very general. And that was deliberate, because otherwise he would have had to specify the Council on Aging Director. And he didn't want to do that.
I'd be uncomfortable with the one-time thing, to be honest. It's just me.
But that's his reasoning for being so general in terms of his presentation, or the way it's written. And I would agree, especially under the circumstances, it's unnecessary, but I think we will postpone it to the next meeting, get some more information. Okay, approving the union contracts.
Are all of them in? I don't believe they are.
I think there was a,
Sergeants were still out, the
that was the
lieutenants.
one. And it's not a holdout necessarily, he's just not finished.
It's just not finished yet. Those guys are usually,
So why don't we postpone that, and we get more accurate information, all agreed with that? Okay, now establishing the revolving funds bylaw. That's oftentimes housekeeping that we do.
this is just the same old one, it's not new, right?
Right.
Okay, you said new. I'd motion to approve this.
second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article 17 is the unpaid bills, and he said there is none. Entertain a motion
I would
to take no
motion
action.
to approve.
Second.
If something
Okay.
comes up, he still has to pay it.
But then, okay, then we'll just change it by that time, but he says, his expectations.
Okay. I know his expectations.
Which would you prefer, make a motion, if you'd rather just something?
I would, well, unless you wanna take it up the night of town meeting.
Well, we have a large enough window before it's due to the printer,
Okay.
that we can have, we can wait 2 weeks to
Let's
have on
not
the
vote on
meeting.
it then.
Because
I
essentially,
withdraw my motion to approve.
Second.
we can put the whole budget together and make these small changes or adjustments.
Yeah.
Did you postpone?
Yes.
Okay. Chapter 8, adoption of fines.
Fines.
And they will determine what the fines are.
It's more than that. So it allows a hearing with the board that levied the fine, which is a little odd.
Yes.
So I gave you the citation, and now I'm going to tell you whether you're innocent or not of the, it sounds like we need something that, many of these things are unenforceable, because by the time we actually get into court, one, we spend so much money on it, that, we're losing money, and two, the judge dismisses them when the criminal says, apologizes, and Pinky swears to clean it up. Which I don't think this is, we're trying to raise funds here, I think we're just trying to keep our neighborhoods neat.
It doesn't designate who the hearings officer is. Because you have a written request for a hearing. Let's see. You shall request in writing a hearing before a municipal hearings officer. And Derek mentioned that the writer of the ticket and the hearings officer, he's appointed, are one and the same.
Largely.
But it doesn't qualify who the municipal hearing officer is, other than because he's appointed.
From what I understand, there is recourse if the person wants to go see a judge, that's still fine, so I guess I'm kind of okay with it. I don't know how everyone else feels, but
Yeah, you can appeal the decision of the municipal hearings officer. Yeah, person aggrieved by a decision of the municipal hearing officer may appeal to the district court, housing court, or other court competent jurisdictional pursuant to section 21D of chapter 40.
which is where they go now. If you get the citation and decide to take it to court, that's where you end up, I think, now. So we're adding a step that may clear up some of these without going to court, is I think the hope. Anyone else get
Could in
anything
your
else from that?
explanation add that the finance committee would hope that the hearings officer and the writer of the ticket are not the same person?
But doesn't it go further also and add the unpaid bill to the property tax?
It does.
The lien, yes.
Yeah.
But you still have recourse to go,
Mm.
Before that happens.
well, probably
Yeah.
after, but yeah, so.
Well, they put a lien on it and then they take it to court, you're in court and you can argue the lien.
It does make the process more efficient, I think.
Hmm.
You can see how it could be abused, but to the extent it's run well, it probably would work fine. Given the way people take to social media, I don't think anyone's gonna be terribly abusive about it, keep their job very long.
And you can ignore any past practice. Okay, Article 8.
All right. Does anyone else have any feelings about this? I would motion to approve it.
Okay, have a second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next one is Article 9, parking kiosk provisions. Seems
Sounds
to be-
like something close to housekeeping.
Yes.
Fund has 302,000, we pull money out for trash, parking, enforcement, bathroom operations, seasonal beach cleaning staff, Big Billy trash cans, onset pier repairs, and a number of other things.
I think it allows them to more generally just maintain.
I think it's just putting the parking funds back into the community where they were collected
Mm-hmm.
as much as anything, which kind of makes sense to me. And the benefits come back in a roundabout way to everyone.
Yes. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article 10, the PEG access and cable-related fund acceptance.
I hate these things. Don't they just tack it onto my bill? It's just more property tax. Am I the only one?
This is essentially putting the franchise fees into a fund for the use of the WCTV.
Yeah. I think it just codifies our current practice as much as anything. Was
Yes.
that the idea?
All those in favor? May I have a motion to approve?
I motion to accept Article 10, PIC excess and cable-related fund acceptance.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Article 11 is the transfer of funds from special revenue to WCTV. For them to utilize the funds.
So the last one made the fund, and this one puts the money into it?
Yep.
Okay. So these are one and the same article, effectively?
Yes.
A motion to approve?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Article 12. This is the expedited permitting that Ken just addressed us on for those 3 locations.
I still don't understand why they didn't just make this more general.
I don't either. Seems like we're going through an extra step for something you're gonna do anyway.
Yeah, I don't think you have a quorum on this one, do you? One of these lots is my employer, so you don't have a quorum on it.
Are you gonna excuse yourself? Abstain? Well, we'll just postpone it then.
Theoretically, I have a financial interest, so you should wait till next
Yeah,
time.
we'll just postpone it.
Yeah.
We can do that.
That's what I'm saying.
You just wanna move on to the liquor license, don't you? Article 13, the additional liquor license, which is not a full license, it's just the ability, I think, to serve beer or whatever.
Is there any problem with this one?
I don't, I think, considering the,
It's
what he's
in,
intending to do out there,
It's in an industrial zone.
Yeah, the one with the new, company.
yes, the malt.
They like toast or process the raw materials to make beer. And then they want to take some of the beer from their buyers. They buy some of the beer back and sell it as a tasting, so they can, I'm not sure why that's better, but anyway,
Yeah, they don't have to, this way they won't have to store it or anything of that nature. They just have
Well,
it
they
one
don't-
day,
they
they
don't-
put it on site. They don't make beer there, they just have their.
no, they buy kegs, and I guess the idea is that I go in and try those beers, and then I buy from the brewery, and then the brewery buys from them, so
Yeah.
in a roundabout way, they're selling their own product.
The,
Sounded like smart guys, so I'm gonna assume they know what they're doing.
I went into an organization of beer producers, craft beer producers, in just the state of Massachusetts, and there's over 100, so he has quite a market opportunity.
Yeah.
But it's not costing us anything, right, for the town?
No,
No, it's just a beer and, I guess a beer or beer and wine license or whatever it is. A motion to approve.
Second.
motion made and seconded, all those in favor say aye. To amend the zoning bylaws. Article 14, which is the solar generation regulations that Ken was addressing.
I'd like to read this one on my own.
Okay, we'll postpone that.
I don't know that I'll understand it, but,
Give it a shot.
yeah.
Now, Article 15 with the,
Motion to approve Article 15.
Second.
motions made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? A vote?
It's housekeeping.
Yeah, the next one is to borrow for the septic loan program. This is a housekeeping issue also, which effectively puts money in that account so that if you're getting your
believe it provides loans for people
Yes.
to upgrade their septic systems.
Yes, so you don't have to go out and borrow.
I don't think it costs us anything, and it helps keep the town clean. And it's on every year, so. I would motion to approve that unless there's other discussion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
17 is the Stone Path Mall increment financing agreement. And that is giving them 5 years grace on their real estate taxes as an incentive to move to the town. Any discussion?
Yeah, Bernie, who owns that land, do you know, right? I mean, are they gonna?
It's privately held now, and they're buying it,
They're buying it, yeah.
yes.
So, now there's say $1,000 a year real estate tax on that land right now. Are they going to pay the TIF is it just for the additional value created, or is it, do you know if it's also for the base that they're forgiving? Or does it matter?
The hotel was just the base, but I don't know if that's gonna be the same model. I'm usually,
It's the,
pro
I think it's
business
the
on these
appraised value.
things, but to explain it, I'd like to hear more about it, so maybe.
I mean, I tell you, I spent about 2 hours over the last week reading about TIF, and you got the economic zone, and you got, and you can do, with that extra value above the base,
Yeah.
you can return it. You can't, say, put it in a general fund, but you can return it to, the town itself can use it for that TIF property, on a TIF property, say put sewer in, or they can do something with the person that is putting up a building, like give them a break in real estate taxes. So I just don't know how the TIF agreements that the town of Wareham, how they're working, what they're doing with their agreements.
We did one of these 4 or 5 years ago for the Marriott Hotel,
Yeah.
and I believe it was for the incremental value above the land value that was already being taxed. But I think, yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, there's a lot of flavors of these things, and
Yeah.
we should probably understand it before we bless it off.
It's just that increment, that assessed incremental value,
Yeah,
that amount, the real estate taxes on that amount can go so many different directions.
yeah.
And for so long. I mean, I've read where you can make a TIF district. It doesn't just have to be that land, it can be of all the land around it, and it can last anywhere up to 23 years.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
Most
this
of
one
us
is
are,
the land and buildings on the tax parcel, so it's just their parcel, irrespective of who may be adjacent to them on Kendrick Road. It's just that particular parcel.
that has the, okay.
yeah, it doesn't include property tax or
Land
or
and,
personal property tax.
land and buildings.
So they would pay on their vats and pumps and beer glasses and bar stools. I'd like to understand it, I guess.
And
Wanna
then
address that?
what if the real estate value goes up for, also because of the building? See, it seemed to me that they are not
I
paying
think they
value.
usually freeze the land,
They freeze the base value.
yeah, and then, of course, they're adding value to it because they're building on it,
Yeah.
or they're redoing the building. I think the building's there and they're dumping.
And sometimes they're adding value to the surrounding land too, because now you've taken land and made it productive or made it commercial use or gained value to that land, the
Right.
adjacent land.
But given 2.5, that doesn't help us. Well, it helps us a little, I guess. We can shift taxes from my house to them, but,
Well, if
They
the
don't get more.
2.5 would just be the tax rate, wouldn't it be, if the.
If you whatever
value-
assessed value.
That's
For new building.
2.5 limits you to 2.5 on what you have, 2.5% increase on what you have. So it doesn't count for what you add. So if
Right,
somebody
yeah.
builds something new or renovates, that's new
Yeah, there's a
construction.
separate line for that.
But, right, so within that 2.5 base, if someone adds a ton of, for whatever reason, the waterfront goes up a ton, it shifts tax to this guy from others.
Yeah.
So to the
It's a
extent that,
portion.
so to the extent that onset is improved because of our parking stuff and whatever,
Yeah.
maybe my taxes go down $5, I don't know. But, it's a roundabout way of,
Yeah, they
putting
can only
10 bucks
raise
in
X
someone's
number of
pocket.
dollars irrespective of,
it doesn't
What you do.
necessarily put more dough into the school right away
right,
until someone renovates. But yeah, they're with this TIF, but then again, you're not losing anything, and you're right, it might attract others to that area who might build and without a TIF.
yeah.
Or they might expand to the next lot over if they're doing well, and we'd say, yeah, you're already here, you're gonna pay on that one.
Okay, we'll postpone that and invite Derek back. Next one is Article 18, the Harbor Services Permit Receipts. To transfer the sum of $68,870 from Harbor Services Permit Receipts reserved for appropriations account. Transfer to the Harbor Masters Maintenance and Improvements account. So the money's there, just moving it one line item to another.
Basically spending his own money.
Yep.
Motion to approve, Article 18.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Authorizing the sale on Article 19 of 505 Main Street. Money goes into the real estate fund, not into the general fund.
Yeah, we don't know how much it's being sold for. We don't know if WCTV feels like they're being treated fairly. Could we talk to them? Do we have time to ask them how they feel about it? Do we have a commitment to them? How long have they been there?
There was, 2 years ago, town meeting approved them adding to the building.
Right, which they didn't get around to doing, I
Yeah.
guess.
But I think they couldn't.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, I would speculate part of the problem is town owns the building, they want to expand the building, it's an historical building,
All right.
and,
I guess I'd just like to hear from all parties on it before we, and then someone stands up in town meeting and says, you know, this, you guys didn't consider this issue.
whom would you like to hear from?
WCTV. Unless I'm the only one.
Well,
I guess they're being given the opportunity to buy it, can they afford it? You know, I'd love to just put it on the tax rolls, just town property, sell it to a private something or other. WCTV wouldn't accomplish that, because they're probably.
no, it wouldn't, they're probably.
501c3.
Because they're a tax exempt organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, would they stay and rent it from someone? Yeah, what's the story? We just got to sell it.
I can't say one way or the other because we're going to have a meeting next,
At the board meeting?
there will be the yearly meeting next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And,
This must be the main topic.
and I happen to be one of 3 that are up for being reelected.
Well,
Good
tell
luck in
me,
your race.
because you're on this committee, you could get them a good deal. Be a campaign, need to, on the
See,
flank.
yeah. So it really hasn't been discussed, you know, that.
Now,
we
it
sat
hasn't been
down
discussed at
and-
all at any of the board meetings have you had?
Well, we have discussed it, but not much, not much. Because this kinda came up last minute. We have been working on a committee to add to the building, because the building is not big enough for
Mm-hmm.
the TV. If you go in there and see it now, it really is very, very crowded.
Yeah, I've been in there.
And so they have to add to that building. And the board has been working on that. And I've been on the board for 3 years. Now, my my show, which is different, WCTV show that I have on television, is something that's been going on for 5 years, you know. But I only got on board myself 3 years ago. So I have to be put back in.
But in those 3 years, what you're saying is there hasn't been any real discussion about the purchasing of the building.
No, because as far as I know, and I don't wanna, speak for the board, but, we weren't considering at one time to purchase the building, you know, so to speak.
Doesn't sound like it fits your
It was under
needs.
the, excuse me?
Doesn't sound like it fits your needs. It's too small.
It is small,
It's historical, so
and it's
renovations would be
historical,
difficult.
yes, but we have been working on the renovations, and we ran into different problems, and although I'm on the committee, I'm not on the specific committee that has been looking into adding to the building. Now we have a pretty good drawing of what we want to, although it's not finalized, of what we wanna make the building as, you know, add an addition onto it.
This-
But there is a board, and 3 people come up for re-election every year, and I happen to be part of that group of 3. And so if the people, when we have our meeting, which is going to be a week from tonight, if they decide that, you know, Pat doesn't go back on there, then I really don't know what's going on, you know?
Yeah, no,
I can't
But
speak.
it's a historical building, you can't, and if one of the restrictions are you can't add,
No, we can add to that
so
building,
you can't.
yes, yes. We've worked on that.
Sounds like you need expedited permitting.
I guess I'm still stuck on this. So we don't know what WCTV
Mm.
wants
Yeah.
or needs.
We'll have another meeting.
We don't know what the building's worth. We don't know if WCTV has the $1 million to buy it. It's gotta be $1 million building, right?
Oh, indeed, yeah.
Would WCTV have the wherewithal to buy a $300,000 or $400,000
Yes.
building?
Yes.
Okay. So,
They got that much money, how come I not get better service?
Now you're getting me in a corner, and I'm on TV.
Okay.
now you know how your interviewees feel.
So,
Um,
you know,
Okay,
I
we'll
can't
postpone
speak
that.
for the
Is,
board.
is there someone from the board that could speak for the group?
Probably would be Steve, the,
Yeah.
Could we invite Steve?
Yeah, I'll call and invite him over.
yeah.
Come on over, Steve, get your fanny kicked.
I'm also interested in how this building was identified as for sale. Why not the Hammond School? Or,
We do have other empty buildings even.
right, this one's actually being used. We have
Hmm.
empty buildings that could go away and theoretically come onto the tax rolls.
Yeah, there's a nice looking building up on West Wareham.
There's a
Yeah,
nice
one of those
library
schools.
across the street that we could sell.
Boy, you're really aggressive, aren't you?
It's only open like 3 hours a week. My wife is
So
there for
that's
all of them.
That's a postpone.
Yeah.
Yes. Moving along, Article 20, Town Clerk.
Didn't we vote no on this
We did,
last year or the year before?
yes.
What's the difference? The town said no. We said yes, as in we don't care.
The town clerk got up, voted, spoke eloquently. She's a very popular person, she's been there for quite some time, of course.
Yes.
And I don't know if I misinterpreted, but I felt the town itself, the town meeting, did not want anything to endanger her position. And they're perhaps concerned that when it was no longer an elected position.
Right, well, she said that she was okay with it going either way,
Yes,
and it's a clerk position, it should be, it's not inherently political position as far as I can tell, but, having said all that last time, it still got voted down, so why is it here again? To my surprise, really.
I believe, and I can't speak for Mary Ann, all I can say is, from what I remember, she's going to retire. And so that will be taking her out of there, and a new person will have to come in.
I think she said she was going to retire last time.
Yeah.
she won her election.
You know,
Okay, and there was an election in between, that's the only thing
Yeah.
that's changed.
And
yeah,
then, in the town clerk's position is required to certify multiplicity of records that we have. And when you have someone off the street who wants to become town clerk, they can become elected. And because they're elected, they're not responsible for anyone, but the electorate.
mhm.
Therefore, they could refuse to go and get certification. And yet they have 3 years there.
Yeah, I think there has been lots of discussion, even within the FinCom, about that position,
Yeah.
and whether or not it should stay the way it is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think
Or-
in the
I mean, I think it should probably move over, it's just that it wasn't but a year or two ago that the town said no after we said, yeah, that sounds fine to us.
Yeah, she was gonna remain there. But I think the town clerk's position over the 20-plus years she's been there has changed dramatically in what it's required to do, what is a necessity. And as I said, the certifications, in the former community I was in, we moved the town clerk's position to a full-time position from an elected. And the job description then becomes a requirement that the person you hire
That's right.
have a, either a college degree or certifications in all these issues prior to being hired. So you don't have to wait, pay for them all, that was economic, but still, when a person walks in the door, they're qualified and certified to run that office because the criticality of that position now.
We really should have somebody who is really qualified to hold that position. I mean, that's my own.
It's always
my
sounded
own-
like a job to me, not an elected official, but
Well, listen, it's an elected position, is there a term for that, or?
No,
Person
you're
being
hired.
made
yeah, it's
until-
yeah, you're just simply hired, probably even in the union.
Yeah, they could have a management union, I don't think they do, but they might, we got enough unions, must have one of them.
I think probably, you know, I'm only guessing, I would say that, you know, many years ago, many moons ago, it really didn't matter, you kind of came in there as the town clerk and, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, you know, and that's okay, but there are so many laws that are in there to be in that position, you better know what the law is, because if you don't know what the law is, the town's gonna get sued. If somebody gets unhappy with the town clerk.
What is it that the town clerk actually does in a,
Well, the
One or
town
two
clerk
sentences.
does a lot of,
All your
a lot of-
records
there's a lot of records
maintains
and,
town records, like
and certifies them,
which town records, property records, voting records?
voting, birth, deaths.
Voting, birth,
yeah.
yeah.
And also, I don't know if Mary Ann does it, but I know, you could be one to marry people.
Yes, you can.
Actually, I
Marriage
think I
certificates.
went to the town clerk to take this position, didn't I?
Yes,
Get
you get sworn in.
Sworn in, yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone, she has to swear everybody.
Swear,
and if you
In
had
town.
somebody who just came in and appeared very nicely and got got elected but had no clue of what they're supposed to do, it could be a problem.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vote. Article 21, the home rule position on mobile homes as affordable housing.
Yes.
Let's try it again.
Yep. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Does everyone understand that one? Good.
Article 22. Return on used funds is community preservation.
That's the
Move to-
regular.
Yes.
She said there was a specific project here, or it's,
It's a completed project. It's right there.
Completed project. Any-
Article 15 of the fall 2011 town meeting.
it says what it is.
Mhm. It's very specific. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those, motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So vote. The next one, the review return on used funds from a project never implemented from the 2009 town meeting for the historic district expansion of someone, something. Anyway, it was given to those people.
I wasn't typing fast enough. Does anyone understand this?
20,000
Yeah.
transferred to the community preservation undesignated fund account from the historic district expansion fall 2009 town meeting, Article 12.
We don't know what project it was. I think she mentioned it, but I wasn't.
Roof, town hall roof.
No, that's a
No.
separate one. That's the next article, I believe.
This was someone who was,
It was the Historic District Commission to
Yeah.
expand the district, and they never went forward with it. And there's a survey that needs to be done before
they wanted to.
it can be done, and I don't think they ever got that done either, so,
I think she mentioned it, they never did
no,
it.
they never did it.
So they needed to do a survey before they,
For, I
Yeah.
believe it's the expansion of the district, whatever that means.
so they needed to do the survey before they got the money, or they needed to do the survey with the
The
money?
survey, I think, is required before they even can be considered. That's what I got.
Yeah, I don't
Because she
think,
said if they wanna come back to reapply, they're going to have that survey.
because I don't think the 20,000 was for, or inclusive of the survey.
Right.
It was a requirement.
So what is this all, like legal work or something?
Housekeeping,
No, but
Money's-
the expanding the historic district is legal work, or?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the expansion
Yeah,
was and what the
everybody
money
understand.
was for, but
Yeah, I'm not sure where it
it
is
was
now.
10 years
where it might
ago, she
expand.
said, yeah,
Because when you expand the historic district, any properties now become
right.
subject and you have certain restrictions. Paint color, everything. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? So vote. And now the clarification of the bylaw for the CPC, which is to reduce their numbers from 9 to 7.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So vote.
This is the roof.
Okay, this is the town hall roof.
I was a little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Getting anxious there, huh? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to accept Article 25. Town
Second.
Hall Auditorium rubber roof.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vote. This is for the headwater replacement housing. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
I'd kinda
Motion's
like
made and
to,
seconded. May I have a second? The,
I'd like to read it before I vote, but.
yes, and I was gonna question that the
If you don't want to
selectmen
vote, that's fine.
voted 3 and 1 abstention. I wasn't watching them.
You can scan this and send it if someone wants.
Yeah,
it.
that's probably once you paint dry line.
Judy.
Oh, yeah. it's zero. I'd like to read it.
Okay, we'll postpone that.
Probably fine.
Okay, the dog park.
Okay. What, can I have a question?
Certainly.
What- I just don't understand why you, what purpose a dog park serves. I mean, when I was growing up, we had a dog, because I had a yard, okay? If I moved to an apartment, I was responsible enough to not have an animal because I couldn't take care of that. So now, we have a dog park, so I understand it, for somebody to take their animal, need another animal, or need another human. I just don't get it, you know?
So when we lived in New York, we got a dog. I was against this dog, just for the record. Nonetheless,
You don't have to put that in, Gil.
I was outvoted, and we got a dog. It was 1-1 the vote. But the dog park was up the street, and it was, you know, there were 30 people there every morning, and 30 people and dogs there every afternoon, and before and after work.
But we live out in the sticks here, and
Yeah, there's a difference.
canal, I just don't, I just
The
don't,
thing
I
is,
don't
we
get
could
it.
walk to the dog park, and 2 others, really. Here you have to drive. I do know that, you know, if you have a pit bull or something there, they can be great dogs, but you really have to get them some exercise, and you're not allowed on ball fields or beaches or any other thing, but these are gated areas where the dog can run safely if you don't happen to have.
I think they're prohibited.
Could be.
Specific species, breeds are prohibited, I think.
You know, I know we're not talking about the same funds and all of that,
Hmm.
okay, but I
Yeah,
see
they are
Director
CPA
Director of
funds.
Council on Aging, okay, that we've got, you know, how many percentage of seniors here? And it's like, well, we can have a dog park.
Right.
Yeah.
But these funds could never be spent on
Oh,
that.
right, so I mean, it's,
Yeah.
we couldn't do it, I understand, but I mean, just talking in general, total scheme of
Right.
priorities here, you know?
Yeah, no, I
You're
understand.
not one of these millennials, Jerry, so I don't think you fully understand. I don't
I have a
either,
flip phone.
and
not
Alice
a-
is knocking on the door.
On the dog issue, I have a dog, but, I think that, you know, for many years in this town, they have been trying to get a dog park together. And they've been working on this, a committee, for a long, long time. And you can't take your dog down to the beaches here, they don't allow the dogs on the beaches. I know they do, but they don't. Legally, you can't. And there isn't any place you can take your dog if you wanna take your dog out. And, I think the dog park is a very good idea. And the fact that it's only costing us $20,000, and the people behind it that are putting up the money are putting up a lot of money to make that dog park.
In their presentation, they've
Yeah,
done extensive work
they really do.
and research. And Kelly, in your files perhaps, they had a handout. Did you perchance get a copy of that?
I can look for it.
If you have one, yeah. Perhaps you can make a copy of it and send it to Jerry.
But,
In fact, send it to all of us so we can update ourselves.
just to add a little color to it, the CPA money is for frivolous things. It can't be spent on practical things like the school system, although you can buy playground equipment for the school system. So, and it is the only source of money that we have to create playgrounds and open space and whatnot that make the town nicer in general. So even though they are frivolous and compared to the need for a new teacher or something like that, they just can't be directed in that direction, so. I made peace with the idea that some of these projects are Yeah, you know, a bit frivolous, but, without this money, the town wouldn't, be as nice as it is. That we just wouldn't have the parks that are redone for kids, because we do maybe 1 or 2 a year. We've bought, since I've been here, 4 or 5 lots of land, I don't know how many acres, hundreds maybe. Created trails, that kind of thing, so it is a quality of life thing, and hopefully some other project will impact your quality of life.
Would you like to postpone this?
Nicely put.
Jerry, would you like to postpone this until either Kelly can find some
Oh,
paperwork?
no, I mean,
Or if we,
I
search out.
grew up on a farm. I mean, you know, I got,
The dogs
You
just
know,
ran around the
yeah,
yard.
it's,
I was in farmland too.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't need any, I mean, just, to me,
But, yeah,
you know,
we fixed stained glass windows in the church, we've,
yeah. I understand the funds, you know, and
Yeah.
and I got that separated. I'm okay with that.
no.
But it's just, you know, even within that fund, okay, is, you know, how much does that fund have, and is, you
It
know,
has quite a bit of money, 2 or 3 million, I believe.
so I guess,
So we need to find good projects to spend it on, is the thing, but they require a lot of work, and they require town residents to come in and spend a whole lot of time making a plan for the playground that they want fixed up, or making a plan for the dog park, and we told these dog park people to go away 2 or 3 times nicely, because they just, they learned a lot from 2 years ago to now. It started off where they picked a parcel that the town wasn't gonna give them. And
There
they
was
didn't
a
have
lot
the
of issues,
insurance
yeah.
taken care of, and there was 100 things, and that the park was only like a half acre or quarter acre, so we're like, what's the point? They have come a tremendous distance since that first meeting where we said, well, why don't you guys talk to these people, and they formed a committee, an official one.
Okay.
All right.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
You been opposed? Okay.
There is, we do think the liability insurance is taken care of, right?
well, that was actually my first thought is, you know, if after 2 years, and I went to the website of the Friends of the Dogs,
Yeah.
and just hoping it stays together, because.
Right. They've made claims that it's a mass state law that you're kind of at your own risk at a dog park. You can't sue the town. But,
Okay, we will have to postpone this,
which one?
the dog park,
Why?
take a vote, because there's only 4, and that's less than a quorum.
No, we have a quorum, we just one voted against it.
You're right. My apologies.
If I was gonna abstain from it, then you wouldn't have a quorum.
Thank you.
But you like dogs, so you're going all for it. Okay, Article 28. The adoption of the cemetery rules, changing to conform to state law, state regulations.
I'd like to read on this one. I understand there are some things that some people don't like in there, and I'd like to understand them and explain them to town meeting, so.
Okay, I'll postpone it.
You should have given us the materials beforehand.
I was a little concerned of whether she was aware of what was happening on. Just anyway, Article 29, transfer of cemetery funds. Transfer of funds or the balance of funds from Article 14 at the annual town meeting of 2/14, as well as Article 18 for the annual town meeting of 2014 also, to a new account called Engineering and Expansion under the control of the cemetery commissioners to be used by the municipal maintenance.
You hear when one of them came in a house coat and nightgown. I'm afraid if we start looking like we're not gonna approve this, she'll come back. She was watching on television and just raced over.
Or Maybe they don't bury you as deep as they should.
What do I care?
Said thought can dig you up.
Yeah, it won't bother me.
May I have a motion, please? Not cost, we're just moving money around, it's already there.
Motion to accept Article 29.
May I have a second, please? Motion's made and second, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Okay, the solar pilot.
I'd like to understand the economics of it, I understand that.
I'm looking at it too, and I was
Unless someone
looking,
can explain the economics of it to me, debits and credits maybe.
I agree.
And what kind of payment? I mean, payment in lieu of taxes means not cash.
It
but
is
what?
cash, yeah, no, it's cash, but they don't end up on the personal property depreciation schedule. So where they might have 7 or 10-year depreciation on a 20-year asset, they're really only paying for the first, 7 years. And where that ties into 2.5 is, when it balloons 2.5, but then every other year it transfers, that property depreciates, it transfers the burden of those taxes over to homeowners, right?
I will ask the Director of Assessment to come in this time versus Eric, or Derek, excuse me.
I guess my questions are, has it worked somewhere else? What are other people doing? Are we
Yeah, I think I read it,
going
because
to new ground here?
it doesn't refer to a chapter and verse. If it did, I could look up in the book.
Right, I don't see a law here.
Hmm.
Or what properties at a time? I don't know what properties they're talking about.
I think you'd be looking at new ones, because ones that already exist are already on personal property tax. And there's some odd laws about if you've put this up to run your own building,
It says,
so you use all the power, that's not subject to personal property tax. But if you put it on the grid, you are.
it's an ambiguous in terms, it says various properties in Wareham which have been newly developed with commercial solar arrays. Okay, how inclusive is that? How far back do you go? Et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we'll postpone that.
It
We'll
sounds
have
like a
direction.
voluntary program, but I'd like to just understand the economics of it.
Next one is Article 31, the establishment of the special ed revolving fund. My only question is, when the state pays them for in the following fiscal year,
Right, that money has to be
For which-
spent within a year, so it cannot go in this fund, which might not be spent over the year. So it's not possible to transfer it from there to here. He insisted it wasn't more money, but he's got his whole budget and he wants to spend the money from the state, and then we're gonna add this fund as an insurance policy for him, so it has to be more money, unless I'm missing something on how it works.
so he's getting the money, that is to say, when I say he, the school department is getting the money, it's paid into their fund. We're creating this revolving fund out of general fund.
Yes, so it's more,
Right.
but they don't necessarily have access to it, they have to go through, the board of selectmen to get there.
I had asked him to bring some information as to how much in prior years they had either a late applicant or a late person coming in and they required out-of-town.
I did ask him that, and he said was 1 year where there was significant, 100,000 or 200,000. He wants to build the fund up to 4,
But I'm looking at,
but he's never had a $400,000 flip.
how frequent does he have
But
anyone?
I don't know. And in general, I'm kind of in favor of stabilization funds, which is kind of what this is, that, there's a little cash on the side, we've got an excuse to squirrel it away. They can't necessarily just take it for something that's not exactly this.
But my thoughts are, he has a budget which currently absorbs those costs.
Yes.
Now he says, oh, I don't want to do that anymore, I want you to do it.
Yes.
And then, but the cost I'm currently using I'm gonna keep.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
Right.
got from it,
Yeah, that's exactly, that's why it's more.
yeah. Yeah. But,
But it's your money this time, it's not
but
their money.
it's, yeah, but it's not more.
It is,
It-
because
No, I mean,
they take it out of the fund,
yeah,
and then the next year, the state pays that back, or some percentage of it, but then the town replenishes over here. It may not be more in that, I guess we sort of figure out what everything is as a minimum, and then we give
Yeah.
the rest to the school anyway, so if we give it to school in this fund, and give it to the school over there. I mean, we're gonna spend all of it anyway, except for a few bucks that go into stabilization funds, right?
Well,
So,
to use your explanation is, they will spend it out of the stabilization fund. The
Yeah.
following
Yeah.
year, the state reimburses them for that, but
And
that
then they spend-
reimbursement doesn't go into the stabilization.
they
It
spend-
goes into their budget,
right.
then we replenish out of
yes,
general fund the stabilization for what they have been reimbursed for.
Right, or, yeah, his argument though is that the next year's budget line items in total for the school budget won't be as much as it would have been had they not had that money to.
and that might be the real explanation, is that, the school gets all, kind of the rest of the money anyway.
Yeah, don't they then, in a sense, get to increase their budget by that amount?
I think they do.
Yeah.
I actually think the capital budget is the plug here, not the school, but, when we figure out what's left over for free cash, then we decide if DPW gets a new truck or not. Harbor Master always gets new trucks, the DPW guy gets new trucks.
He doesn't get the hand-me-down.
No, he's carrying salt around his to salt roads. They're not in good shape. Yeah, who'd want those hand-me-downs? Those things are terrible. Didn't even do
I'm
park
still
trucks.
apprehensive about the education fund.
Yeah, we could ask more questions about it. I don't know if we're gonna get more answer. Michael's pretty sharp and he's never BS'd us before.
No, he hasn't. I'll entertain a motion on Article 31. Have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Opposed, I mean,
All you have to do is abstain and it gets pushed down the road. It's
Oh, I
easy.
tried.
Okay,
hmm,
we'll postpone it.
postponed.
See, I tried to get it through, but
It's it's probably fine.
Okay, Article 32, transfer of the McKinney-Vento funds to the transportation revolving account.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? It's a vote. Article 33, it's on the warrant. It's here reports. I would suggest to take no action, because it's basically Claire asking for the reports.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's no financial impact.
Have you seen these reports?
We haven't, but I think it's one of those no financial impact things, isn't it?
Right.
So,
Mm.
we have no
It's-
opinion, is what you want to
It's an
say?
annual meeting, and we have it at all the annual meetings.
Mm, okay,
Yes.
okay.
It's traditional.
Okay.
It's foolish, because it's still,
So no financial impact,
they will take no action.
town. Motion to, take no action, I guess, is, should we actually vote to take no action?
Yes, I think it's appropriate. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So vote. And the last one, again,
Well, as far as I know, I
yeah,
can vote against it if you want me to.
I would suggest take no action. Think it's gonna be pulled.
Oh, it's gonna be cool, I don't think we have to officially take no action, I think, if we just do nothing.
yeah, sounded to me like I just wanted to
Okay.
move through.
Okay, Alan's writing your notes, the committee been advised it would be pulled.
I've already crossed it out, see?
Didn't tell me that you just got so.
Just crossed it out so we know it's been deleted forever.
It's gone.
All who voted against 2.5 now want to calls me. They only have to be on this council aging thing. I'm not numbered.
No, I think the timing was, it was inappropriate to come up on this,
It was. But, shared sacrifice, yada yada.
Okay, are there any other town meeting matters anyone wants to discuss before we move on? Comments, questions? Okay, I'd like to just briefly go over this list of liaisons. Is there anything in here that someone has a particular interest in?
I'd like to continue on the events committee.
The events committee,
Community events.
that's why I couldn't find
I've always been put on some committee and I've never done it.
But that's why I don't wanna, they put me on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 committees.
Nice. I'm gonna claim that I do quite a bit with all this,
And,
this writing and ask to be
I'd like
excused.
to do the cemetery, but I know.
it. Do you wanna stay on the ones you're currently on, Joe?
I'm sorry?
You wanna stay on the ones you're currently on?
I'm currently on the,
Yes, but I mean, is there others here?
well,
The seat up.
hesitating on the cemetery.
You're hesitating on the cemetery?
Time, how much time I can commit
Okay. What I do,
because of family issues.
is I just get on the town website and you can have them, send you agendas.
and
So if there's something interesting, I find out when they're on television.
So, okay, put me down for those two then, let's try
Okay.
that.
I enjoy them much better with a glass of wine than I do
Okay.
having to come in and sit and listen
I'll
to
try
it.
that.
I think you should go with whiskey. Maybe tequila.
Okay, next we have the,
I've got a couple that
Yes.
probably would interest me in a sense of learning more about town. Would be
Okay.
the treasurer collector, Midway,
okay,
and then clerk registrar.
okay.
That's it.
What is the audit committee?
Audit committee? It's not out.
Now, what's the, what would you kind of interface with the administration, don't you? That's,
You know, I'm gonna have to, I think, some of these, are really superfluous. The administration, that would be Derek.
yeah.
Board of Selectmen is, watch their, the meetings on television. And the police, generally speaking, some of these are specific departments, and it's kind of harder, to consider that you're gonna monitor them,
Yeah,
because in some cases it's an intrusion.
yeah.
They're operating from who we are.
I mean, it's kind of, okay, I go up to the treasurer collector, say, hey, I'm on finance, I'm liaison, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
then you
Now, the
wanna
clerk
talk about
registrar could probably use you with voting and all that stuff.
Well, the other thing though too is how often do they meet? Once a month, like this, I believe they just once a month. but
Or do they even
for the
have a-
Audit, maybe, what, once, every week
For what?
for the audit? committee?
I don't see it
How
there,
often?
but an audit would be the once a year thing.
Oh, just once a
Yeah.
week
Yeah, but they would meet several times for that few
during
months.
the year.
But then some of them, do they meet at all? Or do they even exist anymore?
Some of them don't exist
How
anymore.
up to date is this, yeah.
The bike trails committee. I don't think we have a bike trail.
Well, those that meet on the same night that we do.
A lot of them do meet the same time.
Right. But I'd like to, good, we're having a discussion.
But having someone with CPC and sort of guiding their process a little bit, having understood, like the dog park would have gone a lot better had someone from finance committee actually help the dog park people from the beginning, rather than when they came in, they got angry with us, you know,
Yeah.
and they went away, you know.
Because they were a separate petitioner, and
Right, they did a citizen's petition, and they just didn't check all the boxes.
Yeah.
Nice
hard for-
people, they worked very hard, they just didn't
Mm.
get the right advice in advance.
difficult for a citizen to come into this building and try to understand where they should go or who they should see.
Sure.
And oftentimes, they don't have time for them either, because they're busy. Okay, next meeting, let's see,
Approve the minutes of,
oh, my apologies, yes. That's what I was gonna do next,
just so we don't forget.
yes. Approve the minutes
Motion to
for
approve.
Wednesday, September 13th. Motion's made and seconded to approve as written. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. Okay, tentative meeting will be next Wednesday, the 27th. You won't be able to make it, Joan, okay. Yeah, I hope Dave's recovered from his surgery to attend. Len from his world travels, and Stuart for your, we had called into Boston for some reason. Anything else anyone want to bring up before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you very much. Gosh, for a moment there, I think we were going to adjourn.